This is a fabulous model of the battleship HMS Duke of York. Now, Duke of York, in fact, never came to Victoria or Esquimalt. It really has no connection with BC, but it's just it's a model that was built by a Canadian naval veteran from the interior, and was donated to the museum about 15 years ago. Duke of York was one of 5 battleships that were designed in the late 30s and came into service in the early 1940s, just in the early years of the Second World War. She had 14-inch guns. You can see she's got a big turret there with 4 quadruple turret, and then that would have been known as A turret, and B turret had 2 14-inch guns, and aft she had another 4. So she had a total of 10 14-inch guns and a very large secondary armament here of anti-aircraft guns. And when you look at the model closely, you can see she's just festooned with anti-aircraft mountings. Of course, there were some very harsh lessons learned about the effectiveness of aircraft against warships, and so as the war went on, Duke of York would have been fitted with more and more guns. And she's also got radar devices here. She has radar directors specifically for directing the secondary armament. Duke of York was in fact the flagship of the British Pacific Fleet when the Japanese surrendered in Tokyo Bay in 1945. But her real claim to fame happened on Boxing Day in 1943, when she sank a German battleship called the Scharnhorst while defending one of the convoys to North Russia. The Scharnhorst had been sent out to try to intercept this convoy. The Duke of York was one of several warships that were in a covering force. And it's interesting that now this is late 43. By that time, the RCN has greatly expanded and has manned several modern destroyers. And I think it was 3 of our newest destroyers were in that force. And in fact, I think they were part of the convoy escort, but they were in that area. And we know that there was at least 1 Canadian officer on board Duke of York. It was a Canadian engineering midshipman under training, and I'm sure there would have been sailors originally from Canada in the ship's company. In any event, it was the Duke of York intercepted the Scharnhorst in open fire in total darkness. It was, of course, December 26th up there, up off North Cape. It's dark 24 hours a day, and Duke of York was part of a superior force, and Scharnhorst was eventually sunk. It was quite a tragic day for the German Navy, because I think it was only 36 German sailors survived out of something like 1,800 who had manned the Scharnhorst. And of course, it's interesting. It was the survivors were all young guys who were physically the most fit, and they were picked up by the British. Anyway, it's a magnificent model which shows the ship's boats, the derricks. The Duke of York originally carried aircraft. And she had a hangar there under that, either side of that forward funnel, and she was one of 5 ships. One of them was sunk by the Japanese off Malaya in 1941. That was HMS Prince of Wales. And the other 4 of these ships survived and were scrapped in the 1950s.